All right, moving along, President Bola Tinubu recently approved the takeoff of the first phase of the consumer credits scheme. Of course, this was announced on Wednesday. What does the government intend for this scheme to be? Of course, it intends that Nigerians will have better quality of life, that you can access goods and services and you pay responsibly over time. How will this scheme take off in the country? What are the things that you are supposed to know? And let's really dive into this issue now. My guest is joining me, Adeshina Adewumi, who is the founder and Chief Executive Officer at Trade Lenda. Mr. Adewumi, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning and welcome again. This consumer credit scheme that has been launched, of course, the first phase takeoff has been approved by Mr. President. What do you think about this scheme?
So for me, I think this is a good initiative. The scheme would help us to be able to achieve, the targets and the goal of, financial inclusion, 50% financial inclusion before the end of 2030 for every meaningful Nigerians out there.
Do you see any challenges that may definitely arise from this? Because the federal government has, earmarked some billions of naira for the takeoff of this.
Okay, so the beauty of this is the fact that this, new establishment, which you can as well call the credit corp,
yeah,
is not actually going to do this, all alone. They are going to be working with the central bank. They're going to be working with banks as well as also fintechs and other financial institutions to be able to deepen access to credit, for these various stakeholders. And one other essential that we need to also understand is the fact that they are also starting first with government workers. So they are not, just spreading, their blanket to everyone first. They are taking it first, to government workers, to working class professionals, and then afterwards, they will then open it to everyone across Nigeria, which I think is actually the right step in the right direction. But one other thing this would also, create is, is going to increase, the acceleration of foreign injections of capital, because a whole lot of people understand that our rates are still quite competitive when you compare it to the global economy. So the rates which are visible here in Nigeria or even across Africa is way relatively higher. And as a result of competition, this would also help us to get more inflows as well as also stabilize, the rate at which people are able to get credit. As you all know, today people, often get credit as high as even 20–30% per month. This is what the FCCPC has also taken steps, and also this credit call would also do to help us reduce all those loan sharks or even chase them out of the market and help consumers to be able to get competitive rates, which can help to grow the economy.
Do you think that moving along that it's also a good idea that the government should be the driver of consumer credit, unlike private sector? Of course, 100 billion naira was earmarked in the 2024 budget for the takeoff of this consumer credit scheme. But moving along, will that be a good strategy down the road?
Well, I always believe in decentralization, and while we don't understand what strategy they will deploy, we can already project or predict, that, this will be decentralized in terms of the approach that the government will take. And the reason is not far-fetched. If you look at every policy that has been taken by the federal government, you see that they've also given quite significant power to the states, as well as all the other stakeholders, who they believe have, more close rapport to the grassroots. And that's why, earlier on I stated that the federal government is going to be working with banks, fintechs, and other financial institutions to ensure that, this policy, this new scheme, actually, reaches to the end consumer. As you all know, today we have FCCPC approved over 232, if I'm not mistaken, loan platforms. What that means today, with this new scheme, should the government be working with the fintechs and other financial institutions, we can be able to harness the possibility of supporting, every of these loan companies can support over 1 million people and then help to close that, lack of access to capital gap across the nation.
Let me still stick with the 100 billion naira because it's a bit intriguing for me. I applaud this initiative definitely because it would also enhance the credit reporting system in the country. It will make people a bit more financially responsible. And if you're financially responsible, you will have gains for it. So it's a good step in the right direction. But I'm also looking at the 100 billion naira vis-a-vis personal loans in the country that are in trillions of naira. In fact, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, in one of their reports, puts consumer credit at over 3 trillion naira. So you can see that 100 billion naira is just, it's not even up to 10%, it's just a fraction of consumer credit that personal loans also have a huge chunk of it in those trillions of naira. So how do you see all of this, moving forward for an economy that have, a lot of informal players, an economy that has, the working population, perhaps they're even less than 1 million, if I'm not mistaken, and all of that. So I hope you understand my question, where I'm going to. Yeah. Yes.
Quite. So the truth is that the statistics basically shows that this market is over a $5 trillion opportunity market and it's growing. So for the government to be able to come out and say we've earmarked XYZ amounts of money for this scheme, it simply means that they are taking the bull by the horn and they are laying the foundation for other, private sector establishments, financial institutions, banks, private sector, fintechs and all that, to be able to also join them. And like you mentioned, today you have a whole lot of people taking credit and believing that there is no effective bureau of consequences of them defaulting.
Yeah.
What this establishment will do is, in the near future, as we continue to implement this new scheme, should you be having, existing credit with any of the financial institutions who would also be bringing their own capital across the region, you won't be able to get basic opportunities that will be tied to the federal government or even some private sector. Across the Western world, you will see that even before you take a house, before you can rent a house, they have to check your credit data and all that. What I think the federal government has just done is to say, okay, see, we don't have the allocation to bring trillions at one go, but we can take the right step in the right direction and allocate maybe 100 billion for this purpose, and then the private sectors will join in.
Now, Adeshina, don't you think, sorry to interrupt you, because don't you think that Credit Corps now, in this instance the government, should perhaps assume the position of a guarantor than a player, than an operator, as it were? I guess Trade Lenda is a digital lender, if I'm not mistaken. So for those of you even in that space, and perhaps for other people that will come, don't you think that Credit Corps should be, the model should be like a guarantor? I said, well, I don't know, but these are questions that I've been asking myself, looking at the strategy that government is coming up with.
Well, one thing is sure, before you can tell someone to do as you want them to do, you must take the right step. While I stand with the fact that the government can actually be an enabler and should be an enabler rather than being an operator, I think what we call system that has been established, is the fact that they believe that they can harness multiple stakeholders. But again, time will tell over the next few weeks as we approach the May 15th timeline. Time will tell whether or not they are going to be harnessing the existing players, such as the fintechs. But like the person who has also been appointed, in this capacity for the Credit Corp is also a young person. So I want to believe that
Ozoma.
Going to be reaching out to players in this space and harnessing, the opportunity to see how they are not just, going on their own blindly, because the truth is this, a whole lot of people also try to game the system, and it's not
Exactly.
really, role. God, that is not government's expertise. Whenever government gives loan, people see it as national cake,
Cake,
so they take,
exactly.
they go away. But the likes of fintechs, the likes of banks, the likes of people like us, we perfected the art of being able to like identify people who already have existing credit. We build technology, layered up technology that allows them within an hour or even minutes to be able to access this credit that they need. And I think that would obviously, be the role of credit corp in the long term. But in the short term, most likely they will want, to be at the forefront, and then over time they're going to take the back seat and be that enabler for the financial institutions and other private sector players to freely play. Thank you.
Let's take a look at some of the things that may be enhanced. The buy now, pay later growth, as it were, because this will definitely be enhanced by the consumer credit scheme. How do you see this moving ahead? I did talk about being financially responsible, and part of being financially responsible in developed nations is that you build a very good credit score that you don't owe. So the buy now and pay later model in Nigeria that would be enhanced by this. Then let's also take a look at perhaps some of the other issues that will come about. Perhaps the issues of delinquency rates, the issues of consumer complaints and redress, even regulatory issues.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that happened to the credit space is the consolidation of the operators. Today we have the money lending association, whereby every player that is operating in this market is a member. Should you want to be fully operational, you also have the FCCPC, who are also protecting the rights of the end consumers. That is also one step that I think they've taken in the right direction. This consumer corp, scheme would also then allow us to be able to do more. So now on the buy now pay later, I think. Sorry,
Yes,
can
go
you hear me?
ahead. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So on the buy now, pay later, I think that would obviously be accelerated. Abroad, you don't need to have 2 million or 5 million to be able to rent a property or to buy a property or to buy a car. All you need to have is maybe a fraction, maybe 10% of that money, and be able to pay over time. What that does is it helps the economy to be able to grow quite fast. It accelerates the growth of the economic, as well as also improves the living standard of the citizens and the people. So for me, I think that is something that will go. In terms of default rates, it's standard that default rates will also jump over the roof in the next coming weeks as the implementation goes. How well the government can also put deterrents, and also ensure that should you want to do contracts with the federal government or with the state government, should you want to even get your passport, should you want to get some basic things that you need to have a clean credit score or be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt why you are not able to maintain that clean credit score or credit history. I think that will be that defining catalyst as regards to whether or not this would succeed or this would fail. But we have a whole lot to learn from those who have implemented such things in the past and succeeded. We also have a whole lot of things to learn from the current players who have been in business for so long, enabling financial inclusion for the mass populace. And then from there, we can see how we can then take it forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Adeshina. I liked how you are anchoring in terms of we have a lot to learn. I don't expect Credit Corp to be calling family members and say, God forbid you, if you don't pay, something will happen to you. But you know what I'm talking about for those of you in that space. Thank you very much. And let's
But,
see.
but just to add though,
10 seconds. Yes.
you
Go
know the
ahead.
Nigerians typically see this as national cake. That orientation needs to be changed. And the only way the government can achieve it is by working directly with the private sector so that these people don't think that this is actually another national cake.
Exactly. So it's a lot work. It's a lot of work for Credicore to be able, in terms of public awareness and information. Thank you very much, Adeshina, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
All right.
Nancy.
I've been speaking with Adeshina Adewumi, who is the founder and chief executive officer at Trade Lenda. We've been talking about understanding the consumer credit scheme. Just be on the lookout for May 15th. Of course, we've said on the show, and you saw the graphics that we put up earlier on, it will be in phases. Thank you all for your company today. Please join us again next week. I am Nancy Naji. Do the best you can be for the change that you want to see. Bye now.